there's no greater way than to be mauled by an animal, watching your own body being destroyed, everything you loathe about yourself eaten. I said, do you not see? I said how cathartic it would be to see the person you despise and loathe that destroyed your life,
The person you hate the
consumed
most.
by a wild animal, the thing you hate most on this planet, ripped apart by a fucking wild animal. I'm like, that's everything we've all dreamt of. You fucking wake up, Giuseppe. It's a fucking dream.
Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. Even while we sleep, we will find you acting on your best behavior. Turn your back on Mother Nature. Everybody wants to rule the world.
How are you? Are you good?
Oh, mate. I tell you, I'm sorry that we missed last week to anyone listening. We had
We've been thwarted.
well, you know what happened is we were scheduled, and then my ex had a meeting, an important meeting. And then we're like, okay, we're going to meet up at 5 then, we'll do it. And then she said, oh, I'm running late. And I'm like, what? Well, I'm at your house. I'm dropping the kids off. Where are you? We're doing the pod. She said, oh, I'm waiting for the bus to take me home from the Christmas party. And there was no meeting. There was no meeting. It was a Christmas party. She wanted to go and have turkey. I basically took out the whole day. And then we're like, fucking what happened the next day? So Friday's gone. We're already running late, man,
Yeah.
because partly it's we've been in Sydney. We're obviously dejected because the numbers have plummeted and we
That's
want money.
you. That's just you. But yeah.
But then anyway, so we come back from Sydney, and then Saturday, what happened on Saturday? Something else fucking happened. Look, we can't, these sound like excuses, but something happened on Saturday or Sunday. We were going to record, and it was like, oh yeah, I think she ended up having them, she had them on the Friday night, and then Saturday morning they came back earlier. Sunday was fucked. And now what day is it? It's fucking Monday, Wednesday, everything's fucked.
It's Wednesday.
dude.
Man, it's just 5 days before Christmas.
You know what's crazy about it is there's a weird thing when you miss the deadline. It's happened my whole life. There's initial panic. You know, you're like, report's due tomorrow. And then there's elation where it's just tomorrow it hits, you don't contact anyone, you're at the beach, you're having a slushy, and then you're like, oh, 3 days have passed.
The problem is when the
I haven't
deadline seems hard and then the deadline passes,
You feel amazing.
it's like it no longer means anything. Like when the sky doesn't fall, you're like, well, maybe the sky
yeah.
will never fall. Maybe I'll just do this forever.
There's this amazing moment where they all consumed. We need it by Friday. And then it hits like Thursday the next week. You've had slushies. You went to the beach. You've gone to Fitness First. And you're like, my life hasn't changed at all. And it turns out Enrique's report was irrelevant. Who cares about the audit of Goldfields Mines?
I like when they go from we need this on Friday, like you fucking get it done, get it to us, and then Tuesday the week after they're like, please, can you tell us when it will? They go to begging.
Dude.
It changes from like we'll fucking crush you if this isn't done to could you please let us know, please, hat in hand.
That's the ultimate emasculation where it's like a threat. Friday, close of business, final thing. And then it's Wednesday, and then eventually it's 3 weeks later, and they're like, look, just give me what you've done. You're fine. I know you haven't done the report. You're keeping your job. You're still getting a Christmas bonus. I'm a cuck. I've lied to my boss and said that it's done. I now have to do it. Can you just give me whatever little work you've done? And it was the exact same thing that happened in university. You were in group assignments. The team didn't work, but you were marked on teamwork. So the guy that basically just said, suck my dick, I haven't done anything, you never reported them. You're like, dude, you met at the library and you go, everyone hand in your work, where's yours? And he's just eating a sandwich and skateboards off. And he goes, I'm just here to sign the report. And you're like, mate, you've screwed us. You didn't do any of the work. And he's like, why would I? Fuck you. And then skates off. And you're like, you know, that guy is cool. There's nothing better than missing a deadline for your mental health.
Oh yeah, it's very good, man. Very
It
freeing.
liberates you. The only problem is, obviously, the listeners are out there, but Who are they? Are they real? Is there anyone still listening? Dude, anyway, so we've had
Picks of the week.
unbelievable. I was in Sydney. My shares have been going so well. And then Strike, which was heavy in on a contract for difference, suddenly had a downgrade, plummeted to 36 cents. I'm down about 60 grand in a day because of the contract for different. People are like, I'm doing gigs, and they're like, dude, you don't seem that excited. I'm like, I got other problems. A fucking liquidation, dude. Fear of liquidation. And then as soon as the trip's over, we're back.
Yeah.
It was just an anomaly to ruin my trip. And then the worst thing is this week's been the same. Cruising. I'm starting to be wealthy again on the back of Strike, but I then have been closing out Strike at around 45 cents on a contract for different because I was buying a lot at 36. So it's actually all right.
Yeah.
You know, because I can do 10x leverage. So it's actually good going.
Yeah.
Right? So that yield is huge. It's, you know, it's hundreds of, but anyway, so it's going great. But then Hazer, I thought, oh, I'll jump into Hazer, and there we are.
Oh no!
There we are.
Has it had a little dip?
Hazer's like literally has 2 days to deliver their promise all year that they will proof of product this year. And they've already said they're taking Christmas, New Year's off because they want turkey. They deserve a break. And so they've planned the holiday, and I'm like, so they literally have 2 days, and now it's starting to languish. Obviously, I'm heavily leveraged, so I'm down again. I'm fucked on Hazer. It's a small drop, but it's a shitload when you're 5x leverage. I'm like, oh my God, all the money I made on Strike's been given back. If I just held Strike, which is probably going to get taken over.
Man, well, so TPD has been delisted.
Yeah.
In my portfolio, I still have thousands of TPD shares, thousands and thousands.
Oh, no. Well, look, it takes a week or two.
And then they become Strike, is that right? They're going to be converted?
And that price is repressed. Like, that should jump up quite significantly once it becomes Strike. Your net worth will increase.
Oh, well, it's at a high at the moment. I'm looking forward to seeing how it washes out. Do you know what date it was supposed to be? They're supposed to be changed over?
Oh, no, 28th of December, so it won't come. But there's actually meant to be an update tomorrow or the 22nd to open up the gas policy right after they've managed to secure this cheap. So there's a big chance that there'll be some big movement. Unfortunately for me, it's the panic of being down 60 grand meant that I was really happy to lock in 44 cents, 43, 44. Because I was like, oh my God, my whole trip in the hostel, just staring at the wall, going, what? I want to get in Hazer. I don't want to be in this Strike bullshit. It's been too much. So as soon as they had me underwater for a week of like the lowest of the year. So obviously once it was 44, I'm elated. I'm out. Now it's 47. I sold some at 40. I fucked it up, dude.
But you still, just like, man, you stuck to your plan, which is good. You sold, you took profit. That's great. You don't need to worry about where the potential.
I did make quite a significant. I made good money. People keep asking where you're getting your money, and I'm like, I've been making huge money on contracts for different. It's been unbelievable, but it comes at a great toil because it's like a stock moves from 67 cents to 63. And I lose 30, 40 grand. So it's like 50 grand. You know, it's big swings.
Yeah.
On tiny. They're like, why are you so upset? It's down 3%. I'm like, it's not 3%. It's 45%. You know, because it's leverage.
Yeah, 3% is 30% for you, man, on your CFDs.
Yeah, effectively. So it's a 30% move on my life savings. So it's like, wow. But equally so, it's a house. In three, it's checkmate, one move. One move checkmate. But dude, so what anyway, we've what an anticlimax for the end of the year, man, because I ended up having a massive fight today with my ex. That's why we didn't record this morning.
What was the fight about?
Well, what keeps happening is we had an agreement that we were going to swap to a week on, week off that actually works so I can gig over East.
Yeah.
But it keeps getting reneged if we have a fight about something else. So on the flight over to Sydney, it was changed. So, we need the sleepover day again. I've changed my opinion. So then I'm like, the whole year's fucked. I'll never be able to do stand-up. And then today it was like, actually, we're not changing at all. It's staying how it is, which is basically unworkable so that I can't go over east without getting my parents to babysit them for at least 4 nights. So it's like I can never gig. So that's obviously once that's removed, it's like exactly what Strike happened. They remove hope. I'm like, okay, so another year with no opportunity to ever go anywhere and have fun doing stand-up. I basically have to stay in Perth gigging to housewives and FIFO workers for eternity. It just kills you, man. You know what's amazing in Sydney? It's not even that good, but people are there. The Peking Duck guys watching. You chat to them after. You recognise them. You're like, who's this twit? Then you look him up. He's got an aria. You know what I mean? You're hanging out. You're moving. You're shaking hands with people. In Perth, you literally got a FIFO worker saying, come round to my house in Midlands. We're making meth in a bar. You can have a free pipe. You are so funny. Come and entertain us at the farm. We've got a commune out there with prostitutes tied to bins. We're living like dogs. It's Mad Max. Come and do my fucking bikey gathering. Do you know what I mean?
How was Sydney for you? Did you have a nice time?
Oh, dude, I had a very bad thing because I had a cheap hostel and the room was too hot. So I was actually finding relief sitting in the alcoves on the street, because there's straw air. So I spent most of my day like in an alcove, like a homeless guy lying on the concrete just to cool off. And by day 2, I ended up having to do a podcast with someone that was like, meet me. And I go, look, I'm not going 3-hour round trip for your pod. So we met, we did a pod around a lake for 3 hours in the sun.
Which pod was this?
It was Andrew Barnett's one. We did it 3 hours. I'm like Ralphie May. I'm out of breath. We're walking around a lake or something in Cogra. He's got me mic'd up. I'm like, dude, I haven't done any exercise. I came back in. I am fucking sunburned. The rest of the trip, my nose has like peeling, 3rd-degree burns. I'm wearing red 30s. People are like, what the fuck? How'd you get so red? And I'm like, I don't basically have any accommodation. I'm homeless. I'm basically outdoors all day. And it's fucking hot. I'm sitting on Coogee Beach all day, cooling off in the salt water.
Just waiting for the sun to go down so you can go back to bed.
I'm basically camping. You know that camping experience where you're like, how good is it? The window wouldn't shut. So the window's open. So basically as soon as the light's on, I'm up. It's 5 a.m. and I'm up. I check my shares. They're still down fucking shitload of money. And then I go down to the beach and I cool off in the... It's equivalent to drinking salt water. I keep cooling off in the ocean, but you're not actually getting out of the sun. So you're like, I feel so crispy. And you keep dunking yourself in salt and getting crispy and crispy. And you end up like, you cook that pork, the outside, the crackling?
Yeah.
You're making crackling because you're in the sun and you keep dipping in the salt and then dipping in the salt and getting in the sun, dipping in the salt. And you're like, my lips are so fucking thick. They're so fucking thick, dude. But anyway, look, long and the short of it, it is the power of your mind because you realise there's no refuge in or out from the sun from your own mental health. Even in Sydney, all the dreams of it being such a beautiful place, it's ultimately fucking no different. There is no silver lining in this storybook, in this cloud. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've slowly realised Sydney was not the salvation.
You had built it up in your head, like if only I could be in Sydney, then everything would be. Yeah, but a lot of your mental health is based on the idea that if one variable changed, it would all be okay.
Well, man, my whole recovery plan is like, I stay in Strike until the takeover, which I've now failed to do, and I don't want to buy it at 46. That makes me $500,000, and then I backdoor it into Hazer, and there you are.
Yeah,
there I am sitting on a few million. And the other one was DXB, which is the new Mesoblast. I found a new surrogate Mesoblast. That's the exact same idea, which is approval in March. That comes off at 10x. So I'm hoping to get into that. The dream sequence was Strike's taken over a double, $500,000. Hazer to $4 million. $4 million into DXB, $40 million by May. That's the plan. That's basically the hop, skip, jump. Hop, skip, jump. But unfortunately, you never account for your own instincts. So when you're up 50, 70, 80 grand, you lock in some because you're like, oh, it's so much better being up than when I was down in Sydney lying on that eating chicken on the ground. Sunburnt.
Yeah, it's difficult to stick to the plan when you are crisping yourself on the streets of Newtown.
And also, so you're in Coogee. I'm in near the proximity to the beach, right? I could walk to the beach. But when you're lying in it down and you've lost a fuckload of money and you're lying outdoors in the sun, you can understand the next week when it recovers miraculously. Might I add, Macquarie downgraded their valuation of Strike after the last drill 16%, which was based, there's 300 mil market cap for this one project.
Yep.
So they wrote off 160 mil of it based on nothing. So it's complete manipulation, right? There was only a tiny auxiliary area that they were extending. It's only like 3 or 4% materiality on this entire 300 mil project.
Yeah.
But the analyst drops it by half.
Sure.
And then they short into it. They make the profit. They ruin my fucking week in Sydney. And now
because then if they're downgrading it, right, like you're thinking, well, I better lock in some profit before it really the arse really falls out.
Well, yeah, they downgraded it 16% over the whole value, but it was 30% of the asset was under scrutiny, so it's effectively halving the value of that particular asset within the vehicle.
Sure.
Which is obviously complete fucking horse shit. Do you know what I mean? It's not possible, right? So
why did they do that? What was their reasoning for doing that?
I think they were positioning for this WA gas amendment policy and the ultimate takeover by Gina, which will happen now shortly.
But why is that? But why would they downgrade based on that? It seems good.
Because they want that it's not a true reflection of their opinion. They're buying and shorting.
Yeah.
Like, as in they want to close out their shorts, they want to buy back in. So they create the appearance of weakness to allow an exit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like yelling to someone and going, look, fire, fire. Everyone runs out of the, or shark, shark. Everyone goes out of the pool so you can have a few easy laps, relaxing with the cocktail.
Yes.
It's all, do you know, or you yell, hey, fire, fire, fire. Or you pretend you're pregnant and get a seat on a train. Do you know, it's manipulation of the populace to get what you want. It's the same thing that I said.
Yeah.
Like a seagull pretends to be limp to get more chips.
Yeah.
It's all the same fucking, the one-legged seagull. It's all the games of the dastardly humans, man. Mm-hmm. But how have you been going?
I don't know, man. I feel like I'm in a mental rut. Just swimming against... swimming upstream against the current.
Dude, that's what I keep telling people. I'm like, the water's lovely. Just lie back and relax and go with it, man. Go with the current. Like you're in Laos on those. Come on, man. Jump in. The water's lovely. I see so many people swimming upstream like salmon. Just relax, float with it, and watch your life go down a plug hole. You don't have to fight with everything. You don't have to react. Do you know what I mean? You can just be, you know, in Laos where they go on those inflatables down the river?
Yeah.
That's how you treat life. They update you and they say, your car's been repossessed. And you just say, haha, I don't want a car. I prefer walking. And just drift off.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I am struggling. I'm saying that it feels like I am, like I'm not of my own volition. It just feels like I'm swimming against the current, trying to swim upstream. Yeah. Like that's just, like, I'm like, you know, getting out of bed. Just basic things. Trying to figure out what to eat. Making my way from room to room.
I understand where you're at because I'm getting joy about self-isolation. I really trying to create a deprivation chamber where I don't have I'm getting more and more joy the less I see anyone.
I've been feeling that a lot too, man.
And I've got Glee and they're like, Are you going to see anyone? And I'm like, how about I see no one? How good's that?
Yeah.
How good is the thought? And I'm just deleting WhatsApp groups, just withdrawing from everything, just not appearing at any events, just basically becoming a ghost in your own life and feeling free. Eventually, it's the ghost of Christmas past, just wandering around, looking at people through the glass windows and having no footprint on this realm. And they're just like, don't you want to like go and argue about Gaza Strip with someone at Kings Park watching a movie? I'm like, I want to just drive past and look out the window and see other people having picnics and know that I don't have to go anymore. That I have no friends. And just looking at albums go up of groups of kids hanging out and just knowing that I wasn't there and feeling joy.
Didn't you have a Christmas party last week?
I've not been invited to a Christmas party for years, dude.
I thought you said you were at one.
I had the Hard Yarns podcast. I basically just roasted them. It went so well with their audience. I ended, like, I know you guys don't respect me, but I said, there's one thing that makes me better than anyone in this room. I said, you listen to their podcast and I don't. You listen to their podcast and I don't. I've never. And just roasting them. The main host is doing a lot of manifestation, and I told him that.
What do you mean by manifestation?
I said you keep manifesting, you know, the power of now. He goes,
like the secret kind of shit.
Yeah, and I was like, you call it manifesting, we call it Centrelink. You've got kids, you need to get a job. You useless guy. That sponsors that, but it's actually quite fun to go into a pod and then just do stand-up directly about everyone there and basically just taking out the anger of your losses on the stock market at really nice people. And them all clapping and going, it's such a piss taker, but you're actually being vicious. There's no humour. You're just lashing out because you've had a bad day. You have no other Christmas parties and you're not happy with the only one you've been invited to, so you attack. But, dude, the passage of time is becoming incredibly fast.
You think you're finding it speeding up?
Well, I mean, my death feels about 3 moves away.
Yeah.
Are you feeling the same?
I don't know, man. I feel like I've stepped out of time recently. Like I realized yesterday that it was how late in the year it was, and that Christmas was next week. That was terrifying.
Dude, once time accelerates to a point, you actually can't mourn other people. They're like, she's dying. And you're like, we're all dying. There's minutes left. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you see people crying at a grave going, my dog's dead. I'm like, we're all dead. It's over.
Yeah, when it feels like 11:59 for you, it's difficult to...
Yeah. Your empathy wanes because you're playing Auld Lang Syne the last 10 seconds countdown before the new year. So do you know what I mean? It's like when the world's ending and you see someone crushed by a rock, but you're like, the apocalypse is on. Like, we can see the sun melting everything. I don't feel any empathy for anyone. We're all over, dude. We were just but a passage of time. I feel now I've become acutely aware that we're just but a passage of time. Just seeing, like, even the legacy items of the comics and our people that were icons are dying and becoming irrelevant in our own life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, what do you mean, like family or?
Well, I'm just everyone. I'm just saying, like, everyone's sort of completed their task. Like, you know what they do as a job, or even if they've succeeded, they've done that now.
Yeah.
So now they live in their house and their holiday, and we know, you became a success, you didn't. But even now, it's irrelevant in a way because it seems so late in the piece. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you realize it was irrelevant. Like, as in, even the people that I'm not giving it, that did well from my age group. It's like, well, what does it matter anyway? Because we're all fucked anyway. That's over now.
Yeah, like it feels like there's no future. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is past.
Yeah, you're acutely aware that we were but a moment, and you become that you realize you can see the chapter flicking on, the 100-year chapter moving.
Yeah.
Not saying that we're very old, but I'm just saying, obviously I'm very young spring chicken. Do you know a comic took a photo of my forehead and zoomed in on all the stress wrinkles? And I was like, I look like one of those kids that went to World War II and had shell shock and saw some shit. You know those guys that come back with the pipe? They're smoking a pipe and they've got blackened skin and you're like, he looks 78 and he's 14.
Yeah. It feels like nothing's happening at the same time. It feels like nothing is ever happening, but the days are screaming past you like a freight train. Like you're standing next to the tracks and a train is just hauling ass right by your head.
Yeah. And you know what's happening is the monotony and repetitiveness of life is becoming clearer because of the speed. You're aware, like back in the day, events would happen and they're so spaced out when you're a kid that you're not aware of the loops. But now as the passage of time accelerates as you get older, you become acutely aware of the cliches and the repetition in your experience. You're like, oh, this again, that again, fuck, Christmas, Easter. And I know we talk about it all the time, but the conversations are compacting it. Everything becomes an experience that's familiar. It's like being trapped in deja vu. You're squirming around looking for some original thoughts, and the only way you can do it is by acting fucking crazy because that's the only thing new. And you've got to, I mean, I was with these people at the Comedy Store and people were saying, you are actually fucking unwell, dude. You're insane. But it's actually, I yearn for something different. So I will be fucking crazy now because I just want to jam that handbrake on and skid the car and have a different experience in the latter years of my life. Like I cannot stand the way that people have fallen into the behavior and the pattern of the routine of existence. People are all complicit now, dude. They've all been broken.
In what respect?
The dog no longer whimpers. It just goes straight to the laundry without being told. You raise the slipper and the dog but you don't even raise the slipper. Now you make the sound of the slipper and it walks to the lounge. It walks through the lounge and jumps in its basket in the laundry. That's what people are now. You can almost you can make a sound and they will jump off the couch. They're obedient. It's amazing watching like a horse whisperer, the way society has broken in the horse. Like most people are broken in now. Mm-hmm. Do you know? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. So if you're at a shopping mall yelling, licking the ground, they do not know how you are not on the lead. Like what is going on in this guy's life to break the bond of society? Do you know what I mean? To shatter the reality? Do you know? I go out of my way to be like what I've been doing in the last few pods, mentioning, trying to be jarring.
Yeah. Well, and have you found that it's been helping you at all?
It doesn't matter. It's the only thing that feels real. Besides, it's just watching the last few bits of sand race out of that the time of life. You know that what's it? The sand trap of life. What's
the hourglass?
The sand trap of life.
The sand trap? Yeah, it's not an hourglass, it's a sand trap.
Yeah,
you think it's an hourglass and then you realise that you're the one who's sinking. The sand isn't moving at all. You're sinking into a quicksand pit below you.
Yeah, it's sinking sand. Everyone goes, oh, how nice is the hourglass? I'm like, until you imagine that speck at the top is you're getting drained down.
So how come I can taste the sand? That's great. It's in my mouth and ears. Why can I taste it? Dude. I thought I was watching the sand disappear. But I'm trapped.
You would have a better life if you had, this is what you should give a baby, as an hourglass of its life so it's aware. Because right now we'd be aware like, holy fuck. You should have in your bedroom the number of grains of sand an average life so that you become aware and you start to get very panicky at the end. Do you know like you would on a flight where it's about to crash and you're like, maybe I'll have sex with the fucking air hostess. I'm going to get drunk. Do you know like, right now, you'd be acting, and that's what I think's happened to me. I think I'm acutely aware of the sand trap, whereas everyone else has become obedient and they can just hear their master shoeing them with the slipper or the rolled up newspaper to whip the dog into the laundry. And I'm looking around going like, hey, I've only got about 13 sleeps left in this fucking laundry. I'm going to maul the owner. I want to bite his dick off and maul him. I need to fucking feel alive before you want to feel alive once before you die.
I just don't know how you can muster the will or energy. Like for me, it's the issue is a feeling of defeat, or not even defeat, just a lack of desire to do anything. I just want to lay down. I just lay down and listen to the fucking brakes of the train squealing as it goes careening past.
Mate, I know what you're saying because that was what I was doing when I was doing the pork crackling experience, which is a lot of people do ice baths. I do pork crackling. So it was sunbaking and then going into the salt water, and you go underwater and hold your breath so there's no noise and sound, and then you float just down to the bottom. And then once you're desperate for air, you swim back to the top. And do you know, like, I do that a lot. And I was telling people at the gig, I'm like, it's the only way I can actually do these spots because I don't care about it, is I have to do about an hour of bobbing where I'm in the Coogee Beach and I just keep allowing myself to sink to the bottom and simulating drowning with no sound and totally being still and submitting to the universe and then floating the top, and then I can come in and do my 7 minutes about my cock. Otherwise, I don't come to the gig. But what I was fantasizing about was that, right? The missed deadline. The moment where you just stay at that hostel, you stop going to gigs, and then you realize you've been there for 3 years and you've been breaking into cars, stealing to get money, and you're no longer answering to the name Andrew. Your name is Jebediah, and you're actually sleeping rough in Coogee, and you realize one day your phone just fell away and your keys, and you just continue walking and eventually wrapped yourself in a bin bag and crawled into the caves on the side of Coogee. Do you know, like, is that not the moment? And then you realize, like, it's been 15 years. And I suppose in many ways you no longer have kids because you haven't communicated for 15 years.
Yeah.
And you've seen the papers missing. Andrew, has anyone seen Andrew? And you've used that to warm yourself in the cave to stay alive. And do you know that idea of walking away and just slowly freeing yourself of the responsibilities of being a human and being alive?
Yeah.
Is freeing.
I think my only saving grace is a fear of my own mortality. If the fear of death wasn't there, I don't know that anything else is keeping me tethered.
I said it to a taxi driver. The only people I communicate with now are taxi drivers.
Your people.
I said to him, he was like, you wouldn't want to die with a shark. And I was like, mate, have you not seen it? Like, your body has a default. Like, you're in shock. You don't feel anything. It's just like awesome watching yourself being devoured by a shark. Like, you've had a big injury. Initially, you don't feel it. So I said, there's no greater way than to be mauled by an animal, watching your own body being destroyed, everything you loathe about yourself eaten. I said, do you not see? I said how cathartic it would be to see the person you despise and loathe that destroyed your life,
The person you hate the
consumed
most.
by a wild animal, the thing you hate most on this planet, ripped apart by a fucking wild animal, not feeling anything. I'm like, that's everything we've all dreamt of. You fucking wake up, Giuseppe. It's a fucking dream to be mauled by an animal, and you actually, because you're not going to feel the pain. Don't you think it would be amazing watching your body being ripped into 3 bits by a shark with no feeling?
The only thing that I can't reconcile is and I guess this is the basis for most religions and theories of afterlife and reincarnation, but I cannot imagine or reconcile the idea of nothing. The idea that, like, in some way or form, my consciousness will never exist again. The idea of that makes no sense. Surely with an infinite amount of time, it'll reassemble somewhere, and I'll be.
Dude, that you don't exist. That's where you're wrong.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. I think that's the.
You never existed, dude.
I'm saying that's where my fear comes from, where my fear of my own mortality comes from. Not that there's nothing. The idea that it will just start again. That's more terrifying to me then in the end of experience is the idea that it'll reboot like a game, or like you'll.
Yeah, but dude, you know what I've realized is everything you love about yourself is the shared consciousness. Your ego is everything you hate, and you are the separation and shedding of ego. Ultimately, the solution to everything is realizing you're irrelevant, and everything that's good about you existed independent of yourself. That voyeur that witnesses your experiences, that greedy, evil, selfish little cunt that you hate. Every part of you that you hate is you, and everything that's good is the shared thing that exists as independent of you. So it's like you're not losing anything. The witness of your life, which is you, is everything that's repulsive.
Yes.
Once that's shedded, you're free.
But my fear is is that I will, instead of it there being a finite, definitive end, that I will continue to witness or begin witnessing again in some way, somehow, that I cannot comprehend.
That is what overwhelms me as well, because it's actually a horrible prank, because you're put into this world and you're put as a witness of your own life. And then slowly, as you get more intuitive to what existing is, you realize that the game is freeing yourself of the viewing microscope, like everything that's bad about you. That person that will drown someone to survive is all that. And then you realize, so it's all disgusting. That the vehicle that can observe you being alive is the everything that you have to free yourself in your 100 years alive.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what a horrible thing to do to someone, to create this witness, this nasty troll of a witness that you think is you. And then you eventually go, it's a dirty observer. Like, it's a guy peering from a cupboard of a beautiful lovemaking session, and you're like, so why did we just never have that? Just not witness any of it.
That's the thing I get. Like a teenager, I become angrier and angrier at my own parents and ancestors with the passage of time that they would force us upon someone.
You get angry with the whole idea of existence because you realize independent of existence was this pure, beautiful nirvana, and then that the need to see itself basically created all that is bad. Do you know what I mean? Like the need to witness itself. So it's equivalent. This is the idea. You could have just enjoyed the birthday, but now you needed to take photos of it, and the party was never as good. And I'm like, why didn't it just exist as the divine being? Why do we all these mini tentacles of little fuckheads making Netflix specials, trying to create legacy items? And I'm like, dude, what I'm saying is it's such a paradox. But then I asked it on DMT and they go, what else would we do? And I'm like, fair point. What are we going to do? And I'm like, even though it's flawed, it is something. And suppose black and white, independent of, if you don't have negative space and then positive space, nothing exists. So in a way it exists. It had to have us, even though we're the curse and we are ultimately Satan, it had to have us to create and us be appreciative as we exit this place of how good that thing is. Do you know what I mean? The divine being, the existence, the shared consciousness.
Yeah. Well, and remember Satan, the original definition of Satan was just adversary. It was not a particular thing. It was just the idea of adversary. So when Old Testament talks about Satan in the Bible, it's not talking about a Lucifer. It's talking about the adversary, the inverse, the opposition.
Dude, and that's what it is, right? It's that negative space. So it's this idea, right? We're in nirvana, and then we were spoiled, and the universe decided that get out of the pool, look out at it, and realize how fucking you lucky are. And then once you die, you'll always appreciate never being alive again, because you're like, no more bills. And you're like, you know what? Thank fuck. I don't have to try take this collective consciousness and fashion a 10-minute stand-up bit to try get paid. I can just enjoy humor. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm saying to you, like by having that negative space and seeing the black versus the white, hopefully once you die, you don't recirculate and you just appreciate not ever being alive again. And you're praising the ultimate creator. You're begging on their knees saying, thank you for teaching me how bad it was. I love being in this space. Like, I don't think you just loop.
So I just don't know how there can be I would like there to be an end to experience. So when it is all done, there's no more comprehension and there's no more gazing into the mirror like we're doing now. But I can't reconcile the idea that there is.
But the ripple is created by our ego. Like, what I'm saying to you is we will just go to a space of unawareness but feeling bliss. You won't be aware of it. So it's like, a pool that's nice to jump in, but no one's gone in it. So you're unaware if it's good or bad. That's what I feel like it will be like after death.
I hope so. I hope so too. But my fear is that it requires that observation is required. That in some way, somehow, there can't be a finite, definitive end because there has to be a form of observation and in a solipsist way and in a selfish, nothing exists but my own thoughts and everything that's going on inside my head. The fear is that there has to be that level of observation somehow. Even after death, there must be a loop, or there must be the gases and the particles of your consciousness that are spread across the universe when you blow your brains all over the front of the.
It needs to have a backdrop, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that somehow they reform and they come back together.
Dude, out of interest though, how funny is canvassing this with like a random Karen? Because that's where I've got that bit about, like, do you ever have to smell your fingers to see if you're real?
Yeah.
And they're like, John from the Comedy Store said to me, he saw me do that and he goes, don't you dare say that on stage ever again. It's so unfunny because I was talking about dissociative thinking and I said, do you ever smell your fingers to see if you exist, if you're real, to bring you into the now? Do you know what I mean? To bring you out of the simulation into the moment. And like, he's like, don't you dare say that. But I'm like, the confused look at T-Ball for a woman with a perm that's basically wondering what level spray tan to get for the Christmas holidays, to hear you talking about a pond without ripples and that we're only conscious to appreciate being unconscious is so wacky. And the only people that enjoy it are 16-year-olds on marijuana at house parties. And then it was like what I said to the DMT guys. They all said, oh, DMT, it's so enlightened.
Who are the DMT guys? Who are these just...
everyone I hear talks about DMT, how it makes you so humbled.
Right, okay. Yeah, we
and I always explain to them, well, it's weird because you're using it to push your ego because you're basically using that experience to elevate you around other people. So I said, you've learned nothing from your DMT because you're using it to undermine and belittle other people because they haven't had that experience. So I said, fundamentally, you never understood the message of the DMT.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very layered thing to pull apart because you have after that initial wave of understanding, you feel like you're either gifted or you need to be yelling it in people's faces to make them wake up.
Yeah. You feel like you're in a special group, and then by that, you've not understood the ego analogy. What I was saying is like you're the filthy cuck that's sent into the cupboard so you can watch mummy and daddy create a fuck. And ultimately you're a scumbag.
But then I wonder, like, because if that's a realization in itself, right? That your experience does not make you special, and you should not identify that as being a unique or special thing.
Yeah.
And that everyone's experience is valid. But then what level of idiocy are we at now? Because that can't be the only thing. There must be
for sure.
There must be deeper levels that we do not yet have a hold on. Like the same thing as the initial understanding or idea that I've seen the light, I've seen, now I know, to the one we're at where it's like, no, if you had seen the light, you would know that you've not seen the light.
Dude, that is the levels of nirvana, right? That understanding of enlightenment. And it's like, so I'm at the stage where the passage of time has become repetitive and cliche, so I'm acting crazy. But that is probably like level 3, and there's probably 15 beneath.
Yeah.
Eventually, what actually happens, you become a middle-aged Karen housewife just organising bills. And you're like, that is the old... What I'm saying to you is like, the proximity, you go through cycles, and it's quite funny because I think there is an elevation to just getting on with the sedentary nature of life. So
I think that's the most enviable position to be in. Is one where you're not you don't question the pool. If you're not questioning the pool, you've fucking made it. If the pool is just still and calm, and you're you're jumping in, splashing around, ruining it, but you don't care, that's amazing.
Dude, and it's like, come on in, the water's great. You're in Laos on an inflatable with a cocktail, just going down with the river, making small talk about how to get the perfect lawn with another father and going...
Just discussing the different types of grass.
How to grow the perfect fucking cacao and de-weed your backyard. And I'm like, but how do you go through those passages, man? Because right now mine is about... just trying to create new experiences. So I'm just being jarring to just saying the opposite. So they'll say, oh, he's got bowel cancer. I'm like, good. One less dickhead. And I obviously feel empathy, but I just say something crazy to see what people say. And then they go, he's a monster. Who says shit like that? And you're like, well, at least it's fucking something different for you. Maybe I'm helping you feel a little bit more new experience because you haven't met a freak that eats out of the bins, have you? You haven't seen a guy on pickup urinate into his own mouth for hydration as he picks his kids up in the kiss and ride? Is that good or is that crazy? And then you're like, I'm going to end up institutionalized. I need to get short back and sides and get back at KPMG ASAP. Dude, you know what's hardest of it all is the patterns. Like, as things have got worse, the storms just come in cycles. And it was probably like the bipolar, whatever, but like it hits in windows. Like it's one day where the stocks plummet, the car's broken down. Generally, I find my phone starts scrambling and writing random shit in it. And then, do you know, like, there'll be the withdrawal of any ability to do stand-up. Like, you're landlocked forever. Sorry, we're not doing a swap anymore. Get out. Your money's gone. And you're like, wow, that happened in 12 hours. Period. Only 12 hours ago, I was having a slushy and I was on the up. Crazy that every window has now shut on me. It's just like, dush, 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 shut. But you know, I actually watched Willy Wonka, and I was like, he had Wonka, the new movie.
Yeah,
he has a level of enlightenment that's quite profound, which was the one of rather than being antagonistic to the simulation, is to just being total love and acceptance and kindness. Like this guy gets locked in a laundry for 27 years. It's a kid's theme movie, right? So it sounds pathetic. But he's still jovial, just making chocolate. And I'm like, maybe I need to get back to doing that. And I had that dream, right? I had that dream because my stand-up is never going to go anywhere. And I had this thing of like, hey, and it's what I say to the taxi drivers every time. Pain and trauma is the only way to know thyself. I said, it's actually a blessing. I said, it's the only thing you should be chasing. You've only got 100 years down here. You should chase as much pain and as much trauma as you can to broaden who you are before you leave. You should be basically wall-to-wall terror to become a 3D person, to have depth, you know, and eventually learn to be Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. They go, hey, we've taken everything, and you're like, fancy a mint, a chewy gum. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the feeling that I had when I described swimming against the current before. It's like the simulation is hard and unbending. It's it continues to do what it's going to do, and there's nothing you can change or whatever.
Yeah.
So it will, like, you can either you can lay still and just float with the current, or you can swim against the current, and as hard as you can You can put in zero effort or all of the effort. It doesn't make a difference. The current is the current.
Yeah.
But that's the best that you can do.
And you know who's the biggest proponent of that? It's the serial killer, because he knows how to represent himself with the current. So like if you're diddling kids, you end up working at a kids shelter. You know what I mean? As you're doing community work. And I'm like, it's American Psycho. It's the same thing. What I'm saying to you is they use it for exploitive measures. But if I then say I do a show and raise money for a women's shelter or some shit, it actually works. Where they go, oh my God, Wolf set up soup kitchens. But they're like, I know he's a monster. I've seen him. But like, you're just basically, I've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars doing cycling across the desert for the poor. And do you know what I mean? It's like, that's going with the current. Become everything you hate. You're on the beach cleaning up litter. You're doing everything against your logic. But eventually it's real. And like they embrace the serial killer, you're warmly received. And they go, God, you were a great guy. And you're like, it was all a lie. I felt nothing doing any of it.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what I mean. It's like you can be lying on your back, floating downstream towards the rocks. It doesn't matter if you're thinking, oh, this current's so strong. Like, fuck this, I hate this. Or I know that I'm lying on my back, floating downstream and the rocks are coming up towards me. Or you could have no perception of that at all. No understanding of that, and you're still floating downstream. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
There's two things, right? There's an understanding of the position that you are in this horrible current careening towards your death. Or there's no understanding, and then there's two actions, which is to struggle against it or to just relax and let go.
And this is the analogy, right? It's like seaweed being dumped in a storm, in a wave, and then trying to form purpose. But ultimately it's seaweed just being in a turbulent current, going wherever the current determined, and you can start trying to fight against it, or you can do nothing, or you can be aware of it, or you can not be aware of it. Fundamentally, you're seaweed in the storm, in a wave, in a dumping wave, just being bundled around.
Yeah.
None of it matters. And then you realize the ultimate position is to just dissociate.
Well, that's sort of why it's so difficult, is because it doesn't matter. But it's all you have. So it doesn't matter to the river, to the current. The river doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you feel about it, because you're a tiny piece of seaweed. You're a little nothing who can struggle or fucking be flung off the edge of the cliff. It doesn't matter. But your experience is all you have.
Oh, dude, and then it's like, if you don't invest in it, and every tumble of the seaweed, you turn that into days of the calendar and trying to achieve stuff. It's like this. You go into prison and you don't take care of your cell. It's all you've got. Get a family photo up. Keep the bed made. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to create meaning into the chaos to have purpose, and then you ultimately shouldn't have, because you're weeding away.
Well, it's very difficult to always have the energy to have purpose and to like motivate yourself to focus on that purpose and to not just feel useless and irrelevant and defeated.
And that's what you end up having, right? You're like seaweed, and you're like, every spin of you is a day of the calendar, and you're like, someday we'll all be washed up onto the beach, and you know what I mean? And we'll be safe. And that's what your safe passage of life. But then what you don't realize is on that beach, you wither, rot, and die, and that's the end. There's nothing there. Do you know what I mean? So even there, everything is meaningless. You're as good staying in the water. So even if you try fashion your way and you end up on a rock and then on an island, ultimately your sun dries you out, and then you're pecked to death by seagulls and you become nothing. You become dust anyway. But, then you're like, well, you look at all the other seaweed and go, well, we made it on land, which is the idea of retirement or trying to do stuff. But it's crazy, because if you start viewing it that way, it's hard to even engage in anything.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling at the moment. Difficult to
That's
engage.
where you're at, dude. That's where you're at. And that's why also I'm acting crazy, because with the fast passage of time, I've become acutely aware that I'm seaweed going faster and faster in the ocean. and that it doesn't matter whether they end up on the rocks or stay in the ocean or go on the sand. And then it's very hard to give a fuck about the other seaweed.
Well, and this is my this is what I was talking about in terms of like fear of mortality. Like a big part of me, if I continue to use the river analogy, just because it's in my head,
Yeah.
if I swim down the current and fling myself off, which is my certain fate anyway. But if I just speed it up, like fuck it, who cares? But what if down below the rocks, there's another river? And you have to, and it just starts, and it keeps going, or it starts all over again.
Yeah.
There's another type of maybe even worse turmoil, and it's perpetual.
That's what stops a lot of people. These are the two arguments that suicidal people have. The one argument that stops them, that makes them think they can do it, is people will be better off without me. Mm-hmm. But the thing that stops a lot of people is, what if I'm stuck just with myself forever?
Yeah, this is I think I've mentioned it before. This is the plot of that movie, Wrist Cutters, a love story.
Yeah.
It starts off, this guy kills himself, and then he wakes up and he is in a just slightly worse place.
Yeah.
Everything is just slightly worse. Like the power doesn't really work that well. The food tastes worse. Everything's a bit more depressed. It's always overcast.
Oh my... Imagine that, dude. Because even worse than that is, like, if you just go into that state that you're most worried about, that you exist independent of, you're continuing, like, that's what you're worrying, right? Continuing suffering.
Yeah.
But even if you didn't come to exist anymore, but you were just stuck with your own awareness and consciousness forever without anyone to console you ever again.
Yeah,
even
dude.
now, like you at least listening to me, well, I'm telling you, dude, the days are going faster. I'm panicking.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be meaningless. And you're like, well, I feel the same, my boy. We've got similarities here. But eventually it's just you and no one consoling you. Like, there is a limit of compassion. You even listening, or me even listening to your idea, is actually comfort.
Because how much more terrifying would it be if you went over the rocks and then you were just all alone? It's all the same, but you're all alone, having these horrible, and you know that there's nothing. Your experience is the only one, and there's no external experience to comfort or commiserate with you.
Did you know what the hardest is? Trying to explain this to someone at a varying level, because either you're trying to show a mirror to the dog that it's a dog, and then you're trying to explain that its owner keeps scolding it with a slipper and that's why it's going, but all it hears is wah, 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 like Snoopy.
Like peanuts. Wah, 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 wah.
Wah, 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 wah. Or if they get it, they're like, if they get it, they get very angry. They're like, you're a liar.
Oh, like if you were the one to pull the wool from over their eyes?
Yeah. If you put your hands in front of their nose and they smell the feces on your fingers, they are furious and going, don't you ever pull back the curtain again, you motherfucker. Don't you talk about my mat in the laundry, my baskets, ever again. We've got a system. It all works out in the end. We all end up at the farm in the big sky. Do you know what I mean? You can't actually, I was explaining, it's the same resistance you have when you quit alcohol around alcoholics, how angry they are.
Yeah, because it becomes more about them, and they're like, well, I don't have a problem. It's like, I never said you had a problem. It's like, yes, you fucking did. You definitely said I had a problem.
Trying to explain to them that their house is just a status symbol and no one really wants to have dinner at someone's fucking house with shit home cooking. And I'm like, all it is peacocking. It's a demonstration of your success or wealth. And literally no one wants to go to another person's house, really. Like, as in, no one really wants to have your lasagna on a carpeted bedroom in fucking Doubleview in 14A, a duplex that you've managed to acquire from your job in Bunnings. I would much rather go to a fucking restaurant and come and go when I want to. But the whole idea, if you explain to them that your house is just to show off, they lose their mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a house is that. It's a status thing, right? It's like the only reason you want to bet, all of them suck. They're all annoying. You've got to look after them. But you see these 8-bedroom houses with big backyards, and I'm like, it sucks in there. Like, I think what we've said in the pod before, the only thing that is of value is the company you keep. Like how the quality of the conversations you're having in that house. And most of the time it's not there. So it's like, it doesn't matter where Elon Musk lives because he's Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're trapped in your own head.
And he's trapped with his own company. So I'm like, and I've been to these sophisticated parties, and it was the classic example is the work corporate box where you get invited and you've got catering and you're watching the grand final, but you want to put a gun in your mouth and blow your head away. And you're like, I'm actually just watched my favorite team win the grand final, and I feel like putting a knife into my fucking heart and dying. And that's what you realize these people have. And then you realize, well, if you diminish that and you don't no longer aspire for a display item, which is a big house, well, then you really are free from the matrix, because once you abandon that, well, then you don't have to have a mortgage. And then you're dangerous, because what's holding you then? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think you're still trapped though. Like you said, it doesn't matter if you free yourself from the that external desire, because you're still trapped in your own fucking head, which is that's the true cage, man. The cage isn't a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom box.
Yeah.
The cage is the thing that you're walking around in, peering out the eyeballs of, man. That's the cage. I'm in the cage right now. We're both in the cage.
We're all in the cage, right? Because we all have to have a purpose, and you have to, in a capitalist society, you have to produce. So the reality is, as happy as everyone acts on Christmas, every person I know has a crazy cunt that can basically take their family home at a whim.
Yeah.
Everyone I know has a guy, Jeff, who you go, like you see his red, stained lips and teeth that are reddened. How have you been? How you been, Giuseppe? How's the wife? How's the wife? And at any point, he could go, you're out! And your private school's gone. And I'm like, you process it like it. It was the same way I was saying with the stock market. It's like running malware in the back of your brain, because you're actually never free. Even if you make money, you're always thinking about your exposed position. And it's the same with employment and the way you're involved. You're telling me that everyone, even having trifle, don't deep down remember that Jeff can end all of this if you do not report on time or put a report, and you tell me that you had a good life. You've got a gun at the back of your head at all points. Your mortgage, but more so your employer. And even if you own your own business, you don't know what the next year holds. So don't act happy having I'll have another slice of Christmas cake. At any moment, you know it can all collapse. And that is the fear of being exposed, that you're a fraud, which you all are. You all are frauds. That's the truth of it all. Your ego makes you believe that you weren't lucky, but fundamentally you're a fraud from the beginning.
Yeah, but even if you try do everything you can to exist outside of those systems, and you're just moving from alcove to alcove, staying out of the sun, and then falling asleep on the beach, you're still trapped in your own head.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But you do get enjoyment out of it, right? Because the frauds with the houses or the success or the ego, they look at you and say, look at me, learn from me. Like we say, never get advice from a poor man. Never get advice from any man or any human. Because fundamentally what you're looking at is seaweed being tumbled in the ocean, and it's waving to you going, yoo-hoo, this is how you do it. I've got it all organized. Monday, Tuesday, fast on Thursday. Follow my mechanism and you can have life. But if you actually have any insight, you realize it's seaweed in the storm. And then you laugh with hysterics as a guy in boat shoes tells you about leveraging into the property market and how his life is sorted. And you know fundamentally, as that guy has this third shot and tells you how well he's doing at Rio Tinto, that he knows that Jeff ultimately could fucking pull that rug out at any moment. And they also know that the property market could turn and Bitcoin could collapse and their wife could go at any moment and will, and probably will. And I'm like, but I'm saying to you, like, no one is beyond just being seaweed in the waves.
No. Yeah, you can.
But they all know
you can,
that.
You can thrash and fight against the current all you want, but you're being pulled under forever.
Dude, and it's actually probably the greatest joke of them all is watching someone masquerading that they're not seaweed in the storm and acting like they're a structured structure, like with
Like they've figured it
purpose.
out. Like they've
like
they've found a way to escape the tide.
Yeah, like they're sushi, like they've found a purpose, like they're part of sushi or whatever. The seaweed's now being consumed. But it's hilarious because once you work out that riddle, every person is a perfect joke because their semblance of feeling important, everything that they pride themselves on is a joke. And then you pretty much, any human you see, someone arriving in a waistcoat, someone in boat shoes, someone with a perm, someone with new fucking teeth that they've got in Turkey, someone with eyeliner, every person makes you laugh in hysterics. That they think they've found the solution, the formula, the answer.
Let me pass and then let's do a second episode. Let's reset.
Oh well, this was a heavy one, dude. If we got any listeners left after this, I'll be surprised.
Leveraging your home, margin personal loans, hedged by put contracts, holding 15 overexposed bad positions, looming threat of liquidation. Everybody wants to rule the world.
Wow, what a great show. If you want more Sure Thing, check out the Patreon. Longer episodes, Patreon exclusive episodes every week. And most importantly, it's the best way to show you care. Patreon.com, Sure Thing.